Well, hi again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. This is the 2026 Draft Prospect Show. Joining me, as always, our co-host and founder, Vincent Turner, Joey Clinkscales, former general manager, Brian LeBel, our NFL and NCAA analyst, and I'm Harper LeBel saying thank you for tuning in, everybody. We certainly appreciate it. And if you do like the show, please subscribe and tell a friend. Today, we are going to look at the quarterbacks, and we're going to have three separate shows. Each one is going to be with one of the top-rated quarterbacks, and we're going to begin with the surprise story of the year, at least in my opinion, in Trinidad Chambliss from Ole Miss. Here's a young man that came from a small high school in Grand Rapids, Michigan, wasn't recruited very heavily at all, ends up going to Ferris State, that's north, that's in Big Rapids, Michigan, about an hour and a half north of where Grand Rapids is. He helps them win a national championship. Now, they got a great program, don't get me wrong. Ferris has won 3 of the 4 national championships in the Division II level, so they can play, but he can play. And he certainly showed himself after redshirting and then sitting on the bench for a year or two. He ends up his junior year just lighting it up. They win the national championship. He enters the portal, and Charlie Weiss Jr. at Ole Miss sees this kid and tells Lane Kiffin, hey, let's go meet him at the airport. They bring him in. They sign him right away. And guess what? He was in the quarterfinals playing for a national championship. Not a bad season. 3,900 yards, a whole load of touchdowns and interceptions was really low. A guy that really went from where nobody would know him to where now there are a lot of people that are talking about him. And Vincent, aside from the story, he's 6'1", he weighs about 200 pounds. He's a small guy when you stop and think about it, but he runs a 4.4, maybe a 4.39 when he gets to the combine, but this guy can move in the pocket. He extends plays, and he's got tremendous talent all the way around him. And he really developed, in my opinion, into one of those guys that everyone there at Ole Miss said, after Austin Simmons got hurt, you're our guy, take us to the promised land. And boy, he came very close to doing that.
Well, I think what is so great about the story is that he replaced somebody. He wasn't even at the man at Ole Miss. It took another quarterback to get hurt. And boy, did he put on the show. When you throw for 3,934 yards, 22 touchdowns, 3 INTs, and you complete 65%, which I consider still the toughest conference in college football, the SEC, man, you special. And I always go back big games. He played Georgia twice, 362 yards, 5 touchdowns total. Don't that get you hyped? And I'm going to put it to you. He got one of the quickest releases I've seen somebody come into this game, and he's one of the best dual-threat quarterbacks. Even though he played 1 year, and I know what people are saying right now on the internet and on social media, that don't matter. Because you know what? He played in the toughest conference. And I'm going to tell you who he put me in the mind of. Almost when I was like in the 7th grade, 12 years old. It was a big hoopla through the state of Tennessee, and Joy know what I'm talking about. Condrich Holloway stepping on campus in Knoxville. Same size, same ability. And Condrich Holloway took Tennessee to a 10-2 record that year. But think about it. They kept saying that he was going to slip up that year. Well, that's how I look at Trinidad Chambliss. When Ole Miss was riding that wave, everybody kept saying he going to lose a football game. When he got in the Sugar Bowl, everybody say, no way he can beat Georgia twice. And I'm going to tell you something. If if Ole Miss defense would have made some plays in that game, we'd be talking about Ole Miss playing Indiana on Monday night. But he's got a tremendous skill set that I'm going to give back to the panel. But one thing about it is that he could play football. And I'm glad that he didn't get no eligibility since Dante Moore fell off the board. He might go real high in this year's 2026 NFL draft. Back to you, Mr. Harper LeBel.
Well, Joey, you mentioned a lot of things, or at least Vincent did. The SEC level play that he comes from Ferris State in a Division II to playing against LSU, playing against Texas A&M, playing against University of Georgia the way that he did. He certainly impressed a lot of folks. Did he do so with you as well?
Absolutely. You know, this kid, his story is not too dissimilar to the one of Cam Ward from last year, coming from a small college, being a 0-star recruit and kind of working his way up. This kid did something very similar, maybe not to the extent that Cam did, going to, 3 different schools. But this kid came from Ferris State, where he won. Then he comes in the SEC. Austin Simmons, who was a lot bigger and a very similar athlete and very talented in his own right. He gets hurt. this kid gets in, and usually you don't lose your job when you're injured. Okay, that's almost a no to sit a guy down for good because he's injured. Because when he gets well, you have a chance to lose the team. But when Trinidad came in and he played so well, he made such a difference in that offense. I mean, there were some things that Austin Simmons didn't appear to be comfortable with sometimes, but Trinidad Chambliss looked great. I mean, those things, it looked like he was his job the whole time. Now we're talking about his size. He's a guy that is listed as 6'1", running a 4.4. Looking at him, I'll be surprised if both of those things are true. That's not saying that there's a knock, but he's probably not going to run a 4.4, and he's probably not 6'1". I mean, if looking at him on tape and standing beside other guys that could possibly be 6'1", that's just like if you watch the Heisman Trophy presentation, and they tell you that Diego Pavia is 6 foot, and you see these other guys standing beside him, and he's looking like Charlie Brown. So that's not the case, and I don't think Trinidad is 6'1". He's probably a lot closer to 5'11", if I'm being quite honest with you. But that being said, from a skill set perspective, he does a lot of things that I really like. I love his balance in the pocket. Great quarterbacks throw with their lower body. Trinidad throws with his lower body. I love his timing and his ball placement. I love his ability to roll out on the move and be accurate with the ball. When I say accurate, I mean he's able to throw through windows on the move. He's able to layer on the move, go over a corner and under a safety or linebacker there. So he does a really good job. He's got excellent toughness. You'll see him take a big shot, get up, and go to the next play. He's got great escapability. Sometimes he escapes out of the back of the pocket too much instead of stepping up in the pocket, which can those are things that can be corrected. But the things you like about him are his toughness. You like his poise. You like his lower body strength as a passer. His athletic ability is apparent from the first time you see him. But the ball placement, the movement skills, the leadership ability, those guys rallied around him especially once he became the leader of that team. You could see everybody. He galvanized the whole team. They didn't feel like they lost a quarterback in Austin Simmons. They felt like they gained a quarterback in Trinidad Chambliss. So that's a credit to who he is as a player, who he is as a person. And those guys, he was a leader of men, of college men. And you can see that. There's another quarterback we're going to talk about. You see the same thing. And there's another one that I'm not so sure about from those three things. But there's a lot to like about him. And I had seen the other quarterback from Oregon who decided to go back to school. I liked him early. But the more and more I saw him, especially versus better competition, I had some concerns about him. So I'm glad he chose the path to go back to school and get better. Because at the end of the day, if I were evaluating these guys, the only real negative on this guy is the fact that I believe he's under 6 foot tall. Now, the quarterbacks that are under 6 foot tall in the NFL currently are what Johnny Manziel was. He's not currently in. Cam Ward is about 6 foot 6'1" in that neighborhood. Kyler Murray is going to be under 6 foot. So he kind of Russell Wilson is under 6 foot. So he's going to fall into that category. But from an athletic standpoint, in my opinion, he's a lot more similar to what Kyler Murray is going into the process. And I do feel like once the process has taken its course and he's met with everybody, he's worked out, he's thrown for teams, I wouldn't be afraid to take this guy in the first round if you're not afraid of shorter quarterbacks. Now, a lot of teams are afraid of shorter quarterbacks. And the one thing you have to be concerned with, like with Cam Ward, I'm concerned about Cam Ward's hand size. Okay, I know Russell Wilson had big hands. So when you're short and you have big hands and you can really sling the ball, you don't have a fear of cold weather, wet balls, that kind of thing. With Cam Ward this year, I saw that way too many times for me to concern. And then I did some digging about his hand size, and he's got a 9. And for a normal person, that's fine. But for a football player, especially a quarterback, a 9 is really a small hand. So
And
you can
guys,
have some
the
difficulty.
distance they're measuring between the tip of your thumb to your tiny finger.
Yeah, so my hand is about my hand is about a 10 and a quarter. It's between 10 and 10 and a quarter. So as a receiver, I play receiver. But some of those guys, again, if you have a 9 hand, that can be problematic. And when I tell you they measure everything in the NFL, almost everything they do measure. I mean, they video how you walk. I mean, your gait. I mean, so all these things are part of the process when you're being evaluated. But I do like this guy, Trinidad Chambliss, quite a bit. And again, once this is all said and done, I think he has as much first round natural talent and ability as a lot of guys we're going to talk about.
Well, Brian, one of the things that impressed me was the guys that could get open down the middle of the field, and Ole Miss seemed the whole season to be able to have windows of opportunity of guys running deep drag routes. He's only got 22 touchdowns, as Vincent mentioned, but when you stop to think that Ole Miss had 39 touchdowns this season on the ground, and Kwan Lacey had 24 of those. Once they got in the red zone, they were a run team. So he had some big plays. Obviously, 88 was the longest touchdown throw that he had on the year. But what impresses you about Trinidad to where you would say, this story is impressive, but his talent and where he is right now in his game, playing there in the semifinals for the national championship just a few days ago, what's impressed you?
Well, I'll say his mentality and his attitude and his preparation, right? Because he was kind of thrown into the fire and he didn't really blink. He'd never played at this level before. He'd had success. He's got talent. We knew that. But it was able to translate to, playoff wins, to SEC wins, to, almost a national championship. So everything kind of culminated and kind of showed you what he was capable of. And I think, Joey mentioned it earlier, him and Cam Ward have kind of broken down a barrier in college football. I know with the portal and everything, guys are moving left and right, but for these smaller schools, for these guys that are just, fighting for their lives, so maybe like NAIA schools or Division II or FCS, now they really have a chance to really have, an opportunity to maybe play at a higher level, go play in an SEC and an ACC school and have success. And Trinidad and Cam Ward are, ground zero for that, because they've shown that, hey, we have talent, we have the ability to come in here and put up numbers just like everybody else. So, the positives for him is if you look at his tape, he's very talented. He's very good. He won a lot of football games. And I think that, should speak volumes, especially as a leader, as a quarterback. You have to be able to lead your team and win. And the only really knock I have on him is just like Joey mentioned, his size, but, kind of an extension of that is his durability at the next level. Can he take a hit from, an NFL caliber defensive end or linebacker? And he's going up against some of those in the SEC, but to be able to do it consistently. And I say this a lot for young quarterbacks, it's more than likely a guy like Fernando Mendoza, probably the first overall pick, a guy we're going to talk about. If he goes to Vegas, he's probably going to take a lot of hits. He's going to have some durability. He's going to have survivability, or else he's really going to struggle. I think that's the only knock I really have on Trinidad. I know Joey mentioned like his hand size, and the questions are abound. And when you run as fast as he does, and even if he's not 4.45 or whatever they have listed, if he's anywhere close to that, some team is going to want to utilize his speed and get him to the outside. And if he's going to take some hits, he's got to be able to get up, and he's got to have durability, especially if a team is going to put a first-round pick, especially if a team is going to, back him and say, hey, this is the guy we're going to build our organization, our franchise around going forward.
Vincent, you mentioned the SEC and the level that he was able to play successfully at. If I'm a general manager, if I'm an owner of a team, if I'm the head coach, and if I'm certainly the quarterback coach, I do not want him to get hurt at the level by being able to run up the middle and take it. I don't want an RG3 on my roster. I don't have to deal with that. So what are some of the things that Trinidad's going to have to work on in terms of his overall, I'll throw the ball away and live for another down, as opposed to risking maybe getting 5 or 7 yards? If he's going to get a first down, that's different. But his ability to keep a play going is one of his assets. But at the NFL level, you can't get a guy that's that small, get him hurt. So what's your option for that?
I think, of course, he's probably going to have to gain some weight, get a little bit bigger and stronger. Just like Brian said, he's got the mental aspect right now at the college game. When he gets up to the pro game, know when to run, know when to get down, know when to throw the ball away. I'm going to tell you, one man that does a lot, he get killed for his completion percentage, but his team is in the NFC semifinals. Caleb Williams. Think about it. Caleb Williams throws the ball away. He kind of if Mr. Trinidad is able to kind of watch Caleb Williams and not make bad plays and be able to throw the ball away, and I'm gonna say it one more time, just like Brian said, his mental aspect, just knowing the speed of the game and knowing he can't do certain things on this level, I think he'll be all right. But my main concern, you're gonna have to get a little bigger, and that means gain a little more weight. And that's just my personal opinion. But I think the young man has got an outstanding future. And then also too, a lot of it we know, gentlemen, is what team takes him. Brian brought up another good point. He get with the Raiders or say the Jets, he gonna take some shots. So durability is gonna be real big. But like Joey said, I love the young man, and I love the young man for one thing. He played in the toughest conference in America, and he faced competition week in and week out. And you see the numbers. I'm gonna say it one more time. It's a lot of people don't come through the SEC in 1 year and throw for 3,900 yards, and then have a touchdown interception ratio to 22-3, and then he forced 19 missed tackles also, and then get his team into the college semifinals and do away with Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. That doesn't happen too many times with a quarterback coming in. That's just the reality of it. But I love Trinidad Chambliss, and I think he's going to be a special player. Back to you, Mr. LeBel.
Joey, there's a critique that would be that, well, he just hasn't done it enough at that level, just one single year and really being a backup and only getting about 10 or 12 games to really show what he has. Is that enough from your standpoint in the front office to be able to make the impression, or do you bypass him and wait for a third round selection if he falls that far, or let somebody else who's actually played 2 or 3 years? How do you view that?
Well, I think the fact that he started at Ferris State. I mean, a lot of quarterbacks have come into the NFL with 12, 13, 15 starts, been first round picks. Some of them have done okay. Most of them haven't. Okay, because you have to play football. And when I say play football, maybe he's not playing in the SEC. Maybe he's playing at Ferris State. Maybe he's playing at Montana State. Maybe he's playing at James Madison. Wherever you're playing. I mean, Big Ben Roethlisberger was from Miami of Ohio. So it all depends on where you're playing and you're getting those starts. So I'm sure he's probably in his career has 25 or so starts. And I think that's really the floor. In a perfect world, that's the floor of what you want your quarterback to have. Like 25 starts, 22 starts, 23 starts. That way you have a better gauge on how he handles pressure, how he handles adversity, how tough he is, all those things that I think Trinidad really has in spades. And one last thing about his play skill. I love he and one of the other quarterbacks we're going to talk about, they do a great job of throwing receivers open, and that's an elite trait. A lot of quarterbacks have to wait till the receiver get open, and we're going to talk about one of those. But he's one of the 2 quarterbacks I feel like that I've seen in this draft who throw receivers open. And when you can throw receivers uncovered, that's an elite trait. And this guy has that. He's shown that this season.
Big time arm, Brian. A lot of deep balls, 40 plus yards in the air. His accuracy is high enough in many respects to be able to go, yeah, he can do it. There are a lot of critics out there that, well, he's not good enough. Okay, you try it, especially with some of the LSU or Texas A&M linemen running you down. Is accuracy an issue for you? Is that something that you think everyone can improve it? What was he, just at 70% this year or right at it? I think he's got a big time arm. And that, to me, is as important as what the first thing you say about Elway or Marino or Jim Kelly was they could make all the throws. Is Trinidad in that comparison, not from a height and weight perspective, but just from there isn't a throw on that field that he can't make?
Well, the thing coming in is if you're not the starter week 1, and obviously you're going to go out to practice every single day like you want to be the starter. I'm sure Trinidad did that because otherwise he wouldn't have transferred to Ole Miss. Otherwise he wouldn't have had the success he did. But it takes time to get reps and timing and everything down with first team play. Right? You have to develop a rapport with everybody on the field, the tight end and your wide receiver 1 and 2 and 3, and even handing the ball to the running back. And it's really hard to do when the starters get the bulk of the reps, right? I think it was Tom Moore. There was an old story, and I won't use the language he used, but someone asked him, hey, why does Peyton Manning take all the first team reps. It's like, well, because if Manny doesn't play, he didn't say screwed, but we're screwed. So we're not going to practice screwed. We're going to practice like we can go out there and win. And fortunately for Ole Miss, Trinidad was good enough to where he could come in and they weren't screwed. They had a chance to win. And, I give him, kind of a mulligan on the completion percentage. I think it was still in the high 60s, but he got better as the season went on, as he got more comfortable, as he, got on the same page with everybody. And like I said earlier, he was thrown into the fire and he played tremendously well. He figured it out and he had a lot of really good games on the road in the SEC. And I think that has to count for something, especially in a class now with Dante Moore opting out and saying, hey, I'm going to go back to school. I think there's a real argument to be made if he's got a good combine, if he has a good pro day and he can wow some people with his arm. He might be a top 2 or 3 quarterback in this class, just depending on when you look at talent and you look at what he's able to do. So he's got a real opportunity to at least give himself a chance to play, competitive NFL football and a chance to lead a franchise and get some real reps with what happens here in the next couple months. But if you look at the tape, I think he's also earned that with the season he had at Ole Miss. The only issue is I think you'd like to see maybe another year, like Joey said, like maybe 20 to 25 games, just because, especially at the collegiate level, the higher programs, you have guys that their job is, the scouts and the positional players. They're going to look for any sort of weakness. They're going to try to pick you apart. Anything they can take advantage of, right? Well, he does this really well, so let's change it. And going into his second year, teams are going to have a ton of film on you. They're going to try to figure out what you do well. They're going to try to take it away and just kind of see if you can adapt and change and play on the fly. And even if someone can take away what may or may not be your best trait, can you still excel? And I think Trinidad has the ability to do that because I think, he adapted at every level, right? And he started small and he did really well at Ole Miss, but I think that might be the only knock in him. Otherwise, I think he's a phenomenal prospect, and I think he's got a real chance to be a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Well, there you have it, everybody. Our 2026 NFL Draft Prospect Show. The first quarterback of the season that we've looked at is Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss, 6'1", right about 200 pounds. He's fast, but Joey and I were still not sure whether or not he's exactly 6'1". He could be 5'11" and 3/4. Don't forget that 3/4 because that could be critical on draft day. But he certainly has a chance to move up now that Dante Moore has decided to stay at Oregon. He was ranked in about maybe 8 or 9. He may move up to 4 or 5. Who knows? After pro days, like Brian was saying, it could be a great turnaround for him. And going from a small college, not being heavily recruited out of high school, to being a number 1 draft pick for an NFL team, that is a dream come true for many guys. We hope that it turns out for him. So thank you for watching, everybody. We certainly appreciate it. Please subscribe to the show and tell a friend. We appreciate you being a part of the 100 Yards of Football Network. This has been the 2026 NFL Draft Prospect Show. We want